When economic uncertainties break out, talking heads pop up, and the noise is especially shrill this time during the China-U.S. trade war. Who should you listen to? At this year's China Development Forum fall session, the former U.S. Commerce Secretary Carlos Gutierrez is calling for a stop to the narrative that China and the U.S. could still do well being decoupled economically.
The U.S. and China have to play a more intense role, a more positive role, a role designed to put the trade war behind us. But we must continue to urge our leaders to conduct this work in robust and frequent collaboration with the business community to avoid unnecessarily upending supply chains and restricting technological collaboration and investment flows.
For China's part, the main task is to retain confidence among businesses and consumers. And here's what policymakers will do.
China will strengthen the counter-cyclical measures and proactive fiscal policies to stabilize the economy. We will have more tax and fee cuts. All special purpose bonds planned for local governments will be issued before the end of September. We will announce additional quotas for such bonds for 2020 ahead of the schedule. Those bonds will be funding projects in transport, grid, and gas infrastructure. We will hold on to prudent monetary policies with an effort to bring down the interest rates with timely cuts on the reserve requirement ratio. We will continue to boost consumption and domestic demand in general.
Globally, we see low employment rates, rising wages, and increasing purchasing power. Still, consumer inflation remains weak. That gives global central banks more excuses to cut interest rates to shore up growth. But is that enough? We see a lack of trust in trade. Some at the China Development Forum are blaming the over-politicized business environment because that is putting a brake on necessary economic reforms and hurting the efforts to restore the global economic vitality. They call it a vicious cycle.
Productivity will be a key theme because GDP growth in volume is meaningless. So it's more GDP per capita, and if you want to increase GDP per capita, what you want is to create productivity in services, but also in production, in manufacturing. And so that takes structural reform. Uncertainty is just impeding investment, and investment is impeding productivity growth. So it's simply making the transformation longer, slower, and more painful, and with less impact on GDP per capita growth.
But if the China-U.S. trade uncertainty becomes the new status quo, no one will be the winner. That's why businesses around the world are calling for rational political decisions from both for the interests of all. Cheng, CGTN, Beijing.